Hello, everyone. My name is Monica Ricosi, and I'd like to welcome you to the Fashion and Sustainability Summit. The 2020 series is a collaboration of FashionDex and LIM College. The summit is sponsored by EcoLife Yarns, producing sustainable yarns for over 60 years and the first in the world to spin recycled fiber yarn. Also sponsored by Kendor Textiles Limited, specializing in environmentally and socially responsible textiles, as well as the Accessory Council. This is week 10, and we are about to have a conversation on fashion waste and the circular economy. Today's speakers are Jessica Schreiber of Fabscrap, Kathleen Kirkwood of B.R.A. Recycling Agency, Rich Cohen of Elevate, Cynthia Power of Eileen Fisher Renew, and Tara Maurice of McGuffin and Company, as well as LIM College. Our co-moderators today are Andrea Kennedy of FashionDex and LIM College, as well as Rebecca Margolis of FashionDex. First, I would like to introduce Rich Cohen. Rich, if you would please unmute yourself.
Hi, it's a pleasure to join you all, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Rich Cohen, and I'm the founder of a company called Elevate Packaging, which is focused exclusively entirely on 100% compostable packaging, primarily adhesive label materials and flexible packaging for things like bags and related kind of pouches, stand-up pouches with zippers. Yeah, so our company we have two branches of the company. One is a one-stop packaging solution for customers to come in and purchase something on our e-commerce site. All of it ships out directly same day, and it's all compostable. We have an expertise over 20 years in terms of sustainability, and we pride ourselves in outstanding service and being authentic in terms of clear and complete in our offering when it comes to having a certified compostable offering. And then there's just a shot of our website to give an idea of what it looks like, and basically we offer both stock and custom solutions. Most of our solutions are custom designed, but to enable onboarding of any size company, as even a small operation that's just starting out, they can get started with only under $100 and have labels and bags ready to go to market. So we try to make it accessible, which is a big part of our mission. And just wanted to thank everyone for inviting us, and looking forward to this conversation about sustainability in fashion.
Thank you so much, Rich. Up next, I would like to introduce Tara Maurice of McGuffin and Company.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for having me today. My name is Tara Maurice. I founded McGuffin and Company just 3 years ago, I want to say, and we work in the sustainability communication and education and strategy space. So as you may know, sustainable fashion was one of the most searched tags of 2019. In the same year around the world, we also threw away or disposed of more than $500 billion worth of clothing. So clearly, if that's the case, then there is something that is missing in our understanding of what sustainability is and what it's meant to do within the fashion space. So that is the area that we work in. So we work with brands directly, and usually with brands that have an interest in sustainability but are not particularly, haven't embedded a practice or a philosophy into the brands from the outset. So we work on shifting large organizations that are in process to help them first understand. So we work in education first. So we teach master classes to design teams and executives to help understand the larger issues of sustainability, and then craft a narrative and a story really around their brand specifically so that they can then activate change. And then all of that lives around a core of building a philosophy and a strategy for each brand. Brands, you almost have to think of it's like a Jenga game of putting all the pieces together of both the individuals that live inside the brand, their understanding, the product that they make, and then the goals that they're trying to achieve. All those pieces have to lock together into a strategy and be designed. Next. And what we find, particularly with designers, when we enter this space to talk about sustainability, is that everybody wants to talk about sort of algae that can be turned into leather, or you know, kind of fantasy, far away R&D and development that lives in years ahead of us. But what we like to remind people is that the globe throws away 3.5 million tons of waste every single day. That's 10 times more than 100 years ago, and that number is expected to rise to 11 million tons a day by the end of the century. So what we focus on is waste as our entry point. So we begin every brand exploration work with analyzing their waste stream first as a way to understand sustainability. And that's the work we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. Up next, I would like to introduce Jessica Schreiber.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Schreiber. I'm the founder of Fabscrap. Fabscrap is a nonprofit in New York City. We work with about 450 fashion brands to collect their excess. And really, we're doing three main services as a nonprofit. The first is a recycling and reuse service for fashion companies, taking everything from rolls to swatches to cuttings. So really trying to be full service and convenient so that the choice to recycle excess textiles is easy. Second, we're a resource for individuals looking for sustainable materials. So we have a warehouse where people can come and shop for fabric, a thrift store near fashion schools in Manhattan, an online store, we do pop-ups, and now Instagram sales as we're digital, trying to redistribute as much of that excess designer, high quality fabric as possible. And the third part of what we do is education. We have over 6,000 individuals who have volunteered to help us sort the material. They're learning about fashion's process and fashion's waste and learning about how they can choose better materials. We're educating brands who sign up for service, and really trying to build a community that is working towards a better future for fashion with less waste.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. Up next, I would like to introduce Eileen Kirkwood.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Andrea, LIM, and Fashion Decks. I'm Kathleen Kirkwood, and I founded B.R.A, the B.R.A. Recycling Agency, in 2010. And we discovered and uncovered a way to recycle the approximate 44 components of a woman's bra, which is spandex, textile, metal, steel, plastic, foam, and turn that into commercial carpet padding, all in the USA. And there's 500 million bras sold every year. So that's quite a bit of waste that we convert from landfill, ocean waste, incineration into commercial carpet padding, which typically lasts about 30 years in any building.
Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us. Last but not least, I would like to introduce Cynthia Power of Eileen Fisher Renew.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here and really excited about what my fellow panelists are doing. I'm Cynthia. I am the director of the Eileen Fisher Renew program. Eileen Fisher takes back all of its clothing. So kind of an extended producer responsibility concept that we want our clothes back. And we take back anything Eileen Fisher, damaged or in perfect condition, and we sort, clean, and resell, reuse, recycle, donate it, you know, just to really keep it going and continuing to be used as a piece of clothing for as long as possible. So we do a pretty robust business. Last year, we took back 240,000 pieces of our own clothing, and we have a lot more to do. So we've been around since 2009. The company was founded in 1984, so we have 30 plus years of clothes to recover from our customers that have been hopefully wearing it and enjoying it for a long time. So that's me. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. At this point, I would like to introduce our co-moderators, Andrea Kennedy and Rebecca Margolis.
So hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Kennedy. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, panelists, for being here. I teach fashion and sustainability classes at LIM College, and also founded Fashion Decks.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited. I'm Rebecca. I am a student at LIM and the sustainability coordinator intern at Fashion Decks, and I am very excited for today.
So let's dive into some questions right away. So let's start, if it's okay, with Jessica and Kathleen, whoever wants to go first. But you both really prove that waste has value, right? That, you know, it is a resource for both of you when you take it back. So can you each talk a bit about how you work towards circularity with your waste in such really unique and different ways, and even the fact that Jessica, Fabscrap really works with on the industry, the fashion industry waste, and where Kathleen, you kind of work with the personal waste, like after we've completed our purchase, right, and have these bras. So can you each talk about the different ways that you work and what you do with this waste, please?
Sure. So really our stated mission at Fabscrap is to eliminate waste, because we actually think waste is really just an inefficiency. And so we're instead trying to redistribute excess material. And so we work with the fashion brands by providing a convenient pickup service of anything that is unwanted or excess. If it's reusable, we try and resell it or redistribute it. We also have the goal of giving away as much fabric as we sell. So volunteers get free fabric. We try and give free fabric to students and teachers, to other orgs, particularly right now around mask making. So we always try and give away as much as we sell. For the small pieces that aren't immediately reusable, I mean, reuse is definitely a subjective term. For us, it's anything under a yard. That material gets shredded and becomes insulation, carpet padding, mattress stuffing. I've even heard that it's used in some of those meal delivery boxes as insulation lately. So what we're trying to do is extend the utility and the life of all of the fabrics and fibers that we get. And so it's really a redistribution to maintain the utility of these resources instead of having them be burned or landfilled.
There we go. And for me, I just deal with the undies, because we have an expression: you could give away your clothes, but you can't give away your underwear, which is all more prescient at this time. So we take a bra and we chop up the bra and turn it into commercial carpet padding, and we extract the underwire with metal. Now, when I designed this and this methodology, it is a fortune. So I said to myself, how am I going to pay for this? How are we going to get this done? Because none of this process is free, nor is it for any other entrepreneurs that are in the green recycling fashion business. How am I going to pay for it? So we came up with two methods. One is for the consumer, where the consumer can go to my website and download a mailing label. And on page one of the label is our offering to different sponsors to help us pay for the recycling, whoever it might be, a lingerie company, a brand, a retailer, or even someone in the green business that wants to connect with those women. We also started a text B.R.A. to 79274, because so many of the women that want to recycle are younger, and they're all connected on the mobile phone. But now we call it contactless. And we can integrate that with stores and brands. So we offer this service to be paid for, to help pay for the recycling, direct to the consumer with mobile and on the website downloadable, and direct to the brand or the retailer, where we customize a custom brand experience for them, and then their customer can recycle. They pay the recycling bill to us, and everybody's happy, and we reduce landfill and we keep it going, because the processes of this new system has a cost. So that's our creative way of helping pay for the cost and produce that impact reduction.
I think that cost element is really important too in what we're doing, because one of the things that we have to change is the idea that this material is being donated, and we're changing that verb to it's being recycled, because it is going through a process that costs us money. It costs us money to pick it up. It costs us money to shred it. And because we're working with businesses, I felt really strongly that even though we're a nonprofit, we shouldn't be funded by like public donations and grants. I wanted the industry who needs this service and needs to utilize the service to be funding that process. And so all of the brands that we work with have a service fee for pickup, and they pay for textile recycling the same way that they would pay for paper recycling or landfill. And that, in addition to like our fabric sales, that helps us continue to operate and grow. And I think that financial piece is a really important part of this being a real solution in the future.
Makes it sustainable.
Right. You need to make money in order to do good things, right? At all costs. Excellent. Thank you both so much.
Okay, so next question is for Cynthia. So in terms of Eileen Fisher Renew, you take back items that customers don't need, want, whatever the case may be, and you clean, repair, over-dye, upcycle them into new products. Is this as labor intensive as it sounds, and is each piece lovingly worked on? And can you talk about, more of the specifics of how this all works?
Sure, happy to. Yes, it is as much work as it sounds like, and probably more. We do all of this in-house, which I know brands today actually have a lot of choices. If you were going to start out down this path, there are a lot of larger companies like Renewal Workshop, for example, that will really work with you and handhold and help. They'll do all the processing, but we do all of ours in-house. Let's see, we take our clothes back. For each piece of Eileen Fisher clothing, we give a $5 gift card to our, whoever returns it. And so we have 2 warehouses where we process all these clothes, and we do sort by hand through every single piece of clothing that we get. Jessica can relate to that. And we basically make a distinction at the beginning. Is this in perfect or near perfect condition? Can we resell it, or is it damaged? And so everything, we can resell about half of what we get back that's either in perfect or near perfect condition. And then everything else is either still wearable, so we donate it, or it's really too damaged to be worn, and then we have a kind of a multitude of things that we do with those. So in terms of, I guess I can just say about what we do with all of our damaged clothing, we have kind of multiple options. We try to keep them as clothing for as long as possible. So we want things to be worn for as long as possible. So we'll do over-dye collections, or we have kind of remanufacturing where we take the clothing apart and resew it together as new clothing or different items. We try to take a really creative approach to kind of keeping them going as long as possible. We also have recycling programs where we're trying to create partially recycled content of new fabrics that can go on our full price line. We're doing a cotton fabric right now that's going to be our own recycled cotton plus a little bit of virgin cotton to help stabilize it. And then we have a Waste No More project where we create like really beautiful felted materials. You can check out, we have a collaboration with West Elm and Eileen Fisher Waste No More right now that we're making these amazing pillows out of denim. And then we do have to recycle donate and recycle a certain amount of product that is too damaged. A lot of that is heavily, full of spandex that really can't be recycled. And that's kind of the nitty gritty. Did I miss anything that you wanted to hear about?
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. I think Eileen Fisher as a whole is just such a leader, and it's always interesting to hear about all the facets of everything. So back to Andrea.
And I love the Waste No More pillows line. I've seen them. So great. Thank you. Now let's move on to Rich for a moment. Hi, Rich. So all of what we're hearing, all these components that are getting taken apart from what Jessica, Cynthia, and Kathleen are doing, right? They need to move around in packages, and everybody forgets about packaging. Packaging is such a huge impact too. And you are a real leader in circular packaging as well as compostable packaging. So can you talk to us, please, about your work in terms of this packaging, and also if you could touch on the composting part, like are people or companies supposed to do that, or are you taking it back? And then also, I'm going to add one more thing: the glue. We always hear like glue, like spandex, are both so bad, right? So, but you have a really circular glue. So let's hear it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a lot. So I'll try to cover it as efficiently as possible. About 20 years ago, I started the company, and mostly because I don't like packaging, actually. And I was so frustrated with the waste that was being created from packaging. And so in 2000, I developed this business that was going to focus on providing the most sustainable packaging the world can offer if you absolutely need it. So sometimes we even encourage our customers not to use packaging if it's not necessary, or to use less of it. Our goal, our mission is very different than any other packaging company. And our mission is to reduce or end the use of landfills and stop landfilling stuff, and also to re-enrich the earth. So that's where compostable packaging fits in. Recycling, we have recycling systems in more than 80% of the United States, but it's not working. We recycle about 8% of what's recyclable. So although we have a system in place for recycling, and it's not efficient because obviously you're taking something and with energy, returning it, repurposing it, and reusing it. That's not a bad thing, but it's really not an efficient system, and it doesn't work as well as something like composting. I was excited when I first started composting because I started diverting all the compostables in my own home, and found that about 75% of my waste was compostable. And so I was sending 75% to landfill. Those are the kinds of things that we can achieve. Composting is new. It's very new, and some people are frustrated with the progress, although we're making great progress, because we don't have the same infrastructure as recycling. You know, some places, like in Brooklyn, they have bins now, but that's not everywhere. But the thing is, it's gaining a ton of momentum. Our business has been taking off, and it's a bit of a chicken and the egg because you have to have a bunch of compostables to put in the compost bin. And so what we're doing is, you know, our customers are buying into this concept of using compostable packaging and creating more need for the compost bins to take things away. Trying to get focused on what you asked me again. If you could, what was the first part of your question?
Well, you've answered I think, you know, you've answered about the circularity and the composting. If everyone doesn't mind, because glue is such an issue, right? We always hear that even if you can take away the plastic packaging, you're still sticking a glued on sticker on there. So now that biodegradable poly bag is no longer biodegradable. So what about the glue?
Yeah, so often people ask me how I put all this together, and it was really a journey. It's been one piece at a time. So the adhesive is one strategic and important component. It's an exclusive adhesive that's proprietary to our company. The adhesive by itself is certified compostable, which is really important to have that acknowledgement and proof and validation that it's compostable. And that is a huge component, and obviously in our labels. All of our labels have that adhesive. And we also use that adhesive in bonding laminations together. So when we create packaging, what they call flexible packaging, which is films that are put together, that same type of adhesive is used in that process. Our premise is that every single component of what we produce, and we're vertically integrated, so we control those components, the resins, the adhesives, the films, all the pieces that we start with are certified compostable first, according to international standards. And then what we do is we take those components like Lego blocks and build them into different things. So for example, labels, we have 10 different varieties of labels. Some of them use paper-based labels with the adhesive, compostable adhesive. Some are wood cellulose that's compostable as well, or clear labels or plastic labels. But yeah, those our premise is that we take all these components that are compostable, combine them into solutions, and then take it one step further by offering stuff that literally people can click, ship a pack of labels for $20 and you're on your way. Make it really, really easy for people to onboard.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm still kind of wowed at the sad fact that only 8% of what can be recycled is. So thanks so much. Back to Rebecca.
Okay, so the next question is for Tara. So you kind of come at this from a different angle in terms of, you know, waste, but what are your thoughts on the best ways for brands to market, advertise, and broadcast the sustainable and circular practices they have implemented specifically in terms of waste reduction and or circularity? Did that, sorry.
Yeah, small
Okay.
question. So the space that I come at this from is that most brands, and this kind of tags on to that 8% recycling number and the, you know, the disconnect that we have between kind of how we frame sustainability and how we understand it, and then what we actually do and how we actually behave. There's a big divide there. And so the space that I work on with brands and with my clients is really helping them kind of get over that hurdle between what we understand the problem to be and then really kind of analyzing the problem for themselves. So I guess what I would say is I do not believe in marketing sustainability. I don't believe in selling sustainability. I think you have to really understand it. So I'm careful in the clients that I choose to work with that there's a deep feeling of wanting to do something, but not really being sure how to start. And then I help them start and I help them understand it within their own space. Once you get there, you can talk about that and you can tell a story about that. I do not sell sustainability. I don't market. I'm not interested in it because I think that that's sort of the problem that we're at, that we think that these problems are solved quite simply. I have a mentor who shall not be named who taught me a long time ago that sustainability is a verb and not a noun. And that mentor is on this panel if they know themselves. So, I think that's the mistake. We sort of feel like it's a thing, like sustainability is an object. I can buy it, I can sell it. You can't sell it. It's a series of behaviors. You know, everybody on this panel is changing a process and a way that you do things, and brands need help sometimes getting there to understand that. So that's a short non-answer for you.
Thank you.
Amazing, yes. And it's also not an adjective too. Right, yeah. Anyway, now here's one for all of you or whoever wants to contribute, please, because you all work so amazingly in eliminating waste and excess going to landfill and reducing the pollution that is interconnected with all of that landfill waste. So, but these renewed products, garments or shoddy or insulation, packaging, whatnot, can they be recycled again and again? And if not, are we getting closer to any long-term solutions to this? And Cynthia, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'm happy to. So a lot of them can be recycled. I mean, obviously, if you're buying a garment, it can be, you know, worn again. Once you start getting into the remanufactured items, it really depends, and that you have to start making the best decisions that you can about what you do to the product. So, I mean, for us, it's like anything we can do to avoid something being thrown away and going into a landfill extends the life of it. But really, if you have options that will extend the life for, you know, Kathleen said 30 years, right? That you're turning your bra into like a rug pad. Okay, that's 30 years instead of it being in the trash. That's great. If you can turn it from, you take back a new piece of clothing, then somebody rewears it, and then they get a wine spill on it, and then we over dye it, and then somebody rewears that, and then we take it apart and make it into something new, and then somebody rewears that, and then eventually it becomes insulation, and then that, you know, or whatever. Like you want to see that be as long as possible, is what I would say.
Amazing. Kathleen, I'm sure you have something too here, right?
You know, I love what Tara said. You can't sell sustainability. However, there are economic benefits which does change that behavior. And the issue we have now is how to change the behavior. A good example is the single-use plastic bag. The single-use plastic bag is 6 trillion bags a year. But in Ireland and in Paris, they have banned it and made a 10-cent fee if you want to use a bag. And that transformed people to bring their own bag overnight, just with a 10-cent fee. You know, I bought an electric vehicle, a Tesla. I have to say, the fact that there was an economic benefit of $7,500 from the federal government to support my purchase of that electric vehicle did have, it was part of my decision making. So, you know, there is behavioral changes that can come with an economic benefit without being, you know, out and out selling. One of the great examples I have is you can download a label, or some of the stores, like this is Hanky Panky downloads envelope online. One post on Facebook earns 300,000 bras. Now, 300,000 on one Facebook post just goes to show you the volume that is in people's closets. And 300,000 bras times the average price of $40 a bra is $12 million in new sales. So that is getting a behavioral change and benefiting the brand or the retailer by $12 million of sales, which is a good thing for good works. So you have to frame how you're monetizing your beneficial recycling program. It's not, you know, she's absolutely right. You can't sell sustainability. However, you can frame it in a way that's sort of, you know, what's the cliche, win-win. You have to make it win-win for everyone. But gee whiz, circular bet is, instead of selling one and going to landfill, circular is again and again and again. And here we are as entrepreneurs, failing sometimes, making mistakes sometimes, but trying to think, how can we get this to benefit everyone? Because every time you buy something new, companies like Eileen Fisher or Textile, they come up with inventive ways to have new fabrics. So if you're getting rid of the old, you're actually buying into some of those new technologies, which today are all recycled fabrics.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. Speaking of circular, since you're talking about circular, Rebecca, I think that you have a good lead into that.
I do. So a super quick question for everyone who would like to answer. What are your favorite examples of circularity in action right now? Whether fashion or otherwise.
Can I jump in on this one?
Yeah.
So for me, the most, like, the thing that warms my heart is composting. So Rich, I am part of your tribe. And, you know, also to tack on to Kathleen, what I love about composting and municipal composting is it's one of the easiest ways to teach kids and families this notion of circularity, that really there is no garbage in nature. In the living world, everything that dies becomes food for something else. And those processes, the natural world, are not how we've designed the built world. So we have to redesign all of these things that we've been making for the last 150 years to behave like nature. And composting is so great because it's just something that you can do that teaches you that lesson and ultimately gets you to behavior change. And it's also something that's being threatened by kind of city budgets right now. So support your local composting initiatives, because it's a huge, it creates shifts in the way we think about the way we operate in the world.
I'll add a couple of thoughts there. I wouldn't say that I've seen anything in fashion that I think is fully circular, where the product is being somehow turned back into a new version of that product on an endless loop. But I do see some really important steps towards that. And one of the things that, like, we particularly see at Fabscrap that I think is important is like this extended idea of ownership, where instead of like buying a shirt and I'll wear it for a season and then toss it, we're seeing a lot of people who want to dye it, who want to alter it, who want to mend it and repair it. And they're getting fabrics from Fabscrap to do that, or they're attending our workshops to learn how to like extend the life of their goods. And so I think that's a really important first step in circularity, is buying things that will last, or thinking about how long you'll have the product, or just owning that product in a way that's meaningful to you. I think that's one of the biggest first steps in sort of the consumer side of circularity. And on the commercial side, with all of the brands that we work with, I think there's a lot to be said for brands that are buying recycled fibers. Right now, they can be really expensive, but the more brands that show that they're interested in that process and interested in that fiber, then it starts to trickle down and become more accessible. And so all of a sudden it is the sort of fast fashion who now has accessible recycled fibers where they wouldn't have at those price points before. And so I think the more companies that we're seeing choose recycled fibers, even when they're really limited in the types or quantities or colors or even the utilities, just the fact that people are choosing to purchase that, the more that mills see demand, the more that they feel comfortable buying feedstock from companies like ours.
Anybody else?
I mean, if I could contribute, one of my heroes is Tom Zaki at TerraCycle. I mean, he's done the impossible. I met him maybe 12 years ago, and you know, he just achieved. I mean, I do it every day, so it just seems like an impossible behavioral achievement. But he created Loop, and he just signed up McDonald's, and now McDonald's coffee cups will be tested in 30 stores with Loop technology, where you bring it back with total behavioral change. Procter & Gamble signed up, and UPS is facilitating. I mean, how we did this, you know, is really maybe a couple of books on how we achieve that. But UPS will deliver you steel, antiperspirant and toothpaste, and Procter & Gamble and Unilever products, as well as Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And then when you're finished, UPS will pick it up and loop it back. You know, refillables, but done on a scale, that kind of scale with McDonald's, Unilever, and he has it globally too. And you asked about, I think, you know, who we impressed by circularity. I would say TerraCycle in this new Loop thing. It's incredible.
Yeah.
They are wonderful. I agree. So I'm going to ask one more question before we go to all these attendee questions. And Rich, if we could start with you, that would be great. But, you know, at FashionDex, we get calls and emails, and, you know, our chat box on the site questions a lot in terms of sustainability and circularity. And other than knowledge, really the one barrier, the main barrier is cost, right? So, you know, what do you think about in terms of circular and the circular economy? We've got that word economy in there right away. You know, what can brands do that is implementable, tangible, and cost efficient?
Yeah, so cost is that's a good topic to consider, because at the moment, people often think about the cost of the physical item that's a plastic piece of packaging versus a compostable item. But they're truly completely different items with truly different end of lives and truly different consequences. So if you're looking at the material cost, apples to apples, it's not the right way to think about cost. Obviously there's a cost to the environment that's not taken on by the producers yet. But I think that day might be coming, and with extended producer responsibility, where producers will actually be responsible for what they're putting out there. And when that cost is built in, compostable packaging, as an example, it's not more expensive. But the brands that we tend to work with are the brands that understand the value, and they don't need their arm twisted, so to speak, to be convinced of the value or to do the better thing. They see it as something that supports their brand mission. They see it as something that elevates their brand to be, say, maybe more authentic than other brands that are in their space, by showing that they truly care about the full circle. So when we get into conversations about cost, I think one dynamic is calculating the true cost from a life cycle analysis perspective, but the other is looking at the value add that it brings. And most of the brands that we tend to work with are so passionate, dedicated, it's built into their DNA. On the larger scale of you know, meeting the needs of much larger companies that would bear a larger cost, I think we're going to get there at some point, but it has to do with economies of scale. And so we're at the very early adoption stage of compostables. They're growing extremely rapidly. Our company has grown so quickly in the last few years that, you know, there's such a trend towards a need for this. However, the composting infrastructure takes time to develop. And we're actually building a solution for that. We have a take-back program to enable people to have 100% confidence that everything they get is composted. But until we have that infrastructure in place, I think and those economies and scale, we'll see the cost come down.
Right. Amazing. Thank you so much. And we wish more companies had it built into their DNA. So thank you. All right.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn the floor over to Travis. I know you had a question. Not sure if you want to ask in person or I can ask whatever you'd like.
I can ask.
Okay, perfect.
So this question is for Rich. So as you know, during the garment production process, the goods are made usually at an overseas factory, which places the garments on a hanger. Then that garment is then boxed and then shipped to a warehouse, and then it's then shipped to a store. And then the customer buys it and then puts it on another hanger. So altogether, you have about 3 or 4 clothing hangers going there. And so where are we technology-wise with a hanger that is a little bit more biodegradable or compostable? Because I see a lot of packaging technology going on, but there's never really, the clothing hanger is never really addressed.
That's a good question. That's something I didn't realize was a challenge, but there are solutions and very easy solutions to that. I don't know enough about how hangers work, and I'd love to learn about that. But one option would be a metal hanger, which then could be recycled or reused, and recycled. The other is, I've got hangers in my closet that are plastic, and that plastic, the technology absolutely is available to make that plastic 100% compostable. There's resins that would work just perfectly for that. And maybe no one's addressed that. Maybe if there's a need, that's actually something we would know how to develop. Yeah, there's so much packaging that's not seen in the fashion industry. Exactly what you're saying, from overseas production facility all the way to the retailer, and things get packaged and repackaged. A lot of our customers have us actually send our packaging to their manufacturing facility, and they get the right packaging from the beginning, as opposed to breaking it out, throwing away the plastic, and repackaging it. So, but for the hanger, we have not addressed it. Part of the reason why I'm on this panel and starting to get engaged in fashion is we really believe there's a need and an interest in the fashion industry, and we want to engage and learn what the challenges are and help create solutions.
I can jump in there because we get asked about hangers a lot when we work with brands. Like, will you guys take hangers? Because sometimes when we're getting samples or mutilated samples from production, everything comes on a hanger as part of how it will get shipped as part of that sample. And actually, this is, at least in New York City, anything that is metal and plastic goes into the same recycling stream. And so whether it's residential or commercial, if it's a metal or plastic or metal and plastic hanger, it can be recycled through the municipal recycling systems. Where we had trouble was those really nice hangers that are made out of wood. That is where it kind of became more complicated. But instead of paying for Fabscrap service fee for textile pickup, if they wanted to recycle hangers, I actually said go through the city system. If it's metal or plastic, it can be recycled with those other streams.
I feel like I want to tack on here just quickly, Travis, and also to say that the problem with hangers is actually an illustration of what's wrong with municipal recycling globally. So the fact that we're only recycling 8% of what we generate, those hangers should have a waste stream that they could comfortably go into and be recycled properly. This is a place where brands and fashion is not flexing their muscle to really demand from global governments that we develop recycling technologies that work globally, both nationally and globally. And that's a space where I think we take so much on ourselves as an industry, but really there's a space where the industry should be pushing governments to do more. We need municipal recycling that works globally.
Thank you,
Amazing.
everybody.
Amazing conversation. Very exciting. All right, so Connie has asked at least 3 questions. Thank you for being such an engaged listener, and hi, Connie. But I'm gonna kind of summarize and ask all 3 questions, and if each of you could respond to whichever one that you choose in about a minute each response, please. So either, is this a domestic business? Like, are there domestic shredders, or is all this waste going overseas? Or you could actually, she's wondering, should brands be responsible for taking back the products that they retail? So there's that extended producer responsibility question, and if so, how? And then she also asks about a tax on garments, similar to, you know, all the conversation around carbon tax. So, and should we have regulations around this? So pick between those three. So it's tax, domestic, or EPR, and respond to one, please. And Kathleen, you start this time. And you have to unmute. You have to unmute, please.
Now, yes, our carpet padding is produced in the USA and made in the USA. So we keep it here in the USA. We don't ship overseas.
Can I jump in? I think I like the kind of, in terms of taxing, I would rather see it being incentivized at the moment. I mean, yeah, for anyone who's trying to do the right thing, I think it would be great for customers and producers. So like, for example, give the customer a reward for bringing back her stuff, or give a company reward for, you know, making their stuff recyclable and take responsibility for it instead of taxing everyone. I think eventually, I don't know how I would just guess that more people will actually take it by being rewarded than by being penalized.
I'll jump in on that third one, then the EPR question. Prior to launching Fabscrap, I worked at New York City's Department of Sanitation. So being in sort of a large city government and working a lot with the state, I just first want to note that like extended producer responsibility legislation exists for a ton of products already in the United States. It's one of the reasons why in New York, we can't put electronics at the curb anymore. They have to go to a special drop-off place. It's starting to exist for paint and prescriptions. It exists for thermometers and tires. And that is really saying that because as a producer, you have so many choices at the inception of a product that influence whether or not it can be recycled at the end of life, that a consumer can't weigh in on or can't make decisions about. As a producer, all of those decisions are sort of your responsibility. And so whether or not that product can be recycled end of life is a design choice. And so by having extended producer responsibility that basically says at end of life, producers are still responsible for what they've created and put into the world, whether that be a take back program or helping finance recycling programs through a city or state government, I think that's a really powerful message that if a producer had to take back their products and they knew they had to be able to deconstruct them into recyclable parts or reusable parts, I think that influences design in a really big way and encourages less waste and changes the whole way that we operate and own and use products. And so I'm a big fan, if you can't tell, of extended producer responsibility when it's enacted in a way, like you said, Cynthia, that's not a tax on the consumer, because I do think these are design choices and it needs to hold the producers accountable for what they're creating and adding to our world and our ecosystem.
Yeah, can I jump in as well on the EPR? We also believe that's the future. And the legislation that Jessica referenced is a great example of, you know, how to enforce that. However, we're not waiting for that, and our customers, as an example, don't want to wait for that because, again, they're wired with the DNA and their value proposition is all about being sustainable. But we're supporting them by having a take-back program. So that's one of the things that we're implementing to help get that moving forward by all the things that we're producing on their behalf and then sending them out. We will come to their facility and pick up all of the waste that's related to the products that we've created and have it properly composted. And in that way, the thing that's different about what we're offering is not offering, say, compostable packaging, but rather packaging that gets composted. Because unfortunately, a lot of these producers that want to do the right thing, they don't have a place to put it or a way to compost it because the municipality or the legislation isn't supportive yet. We're going to get there. So in the meantime, you know, in that gap, we're offering that as a service, so to speak, to all of our customers. So we believe EPR is going to be the end game. And so we're enabling that in the meantime between now and the legislation gets in place.
I would just My last comment then for Connie is also when we think about fashion, when we talk about 99.9% of fashion, it's global. This is a global industry. Things are moving around the planet. So you really have to think about it as a global system. And so long-term solutions will have to deal with the global nature of the system.
And I just want to say, just as we talked about sustainability not being an adjective, compostable, and what you just said, Rich, is that it's not compostable packaging, it's packaging that gets composted, is really, you know, really kind of tells what it is and makes that so much more. So thank you all. It is domestic, yay. So excellent, which really reduces the impacts too. And I just want to say one more thing because of what Jessica said, is that we have to remember, we've heard this fact for years, that 80% of a garment's impacts are determined during the design phase. So yes, you know, we do have to reimagine those front end processes. Sorry, and back to you, Rebecca.
Okay, I'm gonna actually turn it over to Kathy. So if you could unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, so I see sustainability as being innovation and collaboration. And this question is for Rich. I was really intrigued by the proprietary adhesive that you were talking about. Is that something that your company is going to expand on so other companies can use it, or is it just through your packaging?
Yeah, we're looking at that based on the application. Obviously, it's a unique and valuable component to our business. But if there's companies that have an application that's outside of where we're using it, we'd be very interested to talk to them about how to use it.
Okay, and we'll ask one more question. Sorry that we can't ask them all, and then we'll move on to that final question. But, you know, so I guess Kathleen and Jessica, but everybody anyone who wants to respond, but at which state specifically does recycling of shredded garments or you know, any wearables take place? And are you doing this at fiber manufacturers or textile mills? And are they kind of, you know, sharing their machinery to do this? Is the infrastructure there for consumer waste? And this is from Erica. Thank you, Erica, for that question.
Do you want me to,
Yeah, you can kick it off and then whoever else wants to join in.
I don't know everything about everything. You know, I just focus on this particular world. So from my experience, when I first started this in 2010, I live in New York City, and New York City is famous for Wall Street and fashion and Broadway shows. Well, I had a broker who I was introduced to who sent me to Nashville, Tennessee. And I got down there and I rented a car with a good friend of mine. We went together, and Nashville, Tennessee was sort of like the Wall Street of recycling. You just drive the car and you find all these different recyclers. It was like I was a kid in a candy store. So I do share their technologies, and we build as we grow together. And now there's facilities around the world. But I was kind of surprised that the hub for recycling solutions was so much in Nashville, Tennessee, along with the music.
And for Fabscrap, we work with a shredder in New Jersey. I would guess that by far we're one of the smallest suppliers for their system. We're contributing, I would say, 10 to 15,000 pounds a month from our sorting process. And they're accepting multitudes of that on the post-consumer side. And so I think as an individual who's trying to recycle, that shredder is probably not available, because us with our 10,000, 15,000 pounds a month are the smallest contributors to what they're doing at scale. And so I think it's important to note that if you do first donate your clothing to a nonprofit or to a thrift, they will resell what they can, and then the rest gets baled, usually goes to a second-hand sorter past the thrift store, a second-hand sorter where it's sorted again, and eventually down the line, some of that will get to the same shredder that we use. I've seen it when we visited. And so that's an economies of scale thing that we've talked about a little bit on this panel, is there's so much volume and the shredder is in such high demand that he's asked, like, please don't share that you're using us. We're already at capacity. We're overwhelmed. That is why so many people believe that we get paid for the scraps, but we actually pay for the shredding process because there's so much demand for this. And so I would love to see this industry sort of grow in the US so it could stay domestic. One of the main outlets though is mattress stuffing as a replacement for the foam. And we're now seeing mattresses really shift towards that mattress in a box model where it's rolled up and it's plastic. And so that industry is changing as well. And so there's a lot of moving parts right now to whether or not that continued process will be part of the recycling stream.
Amazing, thank you. I do encourage everyone to look in the Q&A box. Cynthia, you've supplied so much great information there. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So I think we only have one more time for one more question. So let's just talk about a last question. And with your answer, if you could please tell our attendees where they can find you or your business. But do you have any advice for the brands or people who have just entered the industry or any attendee listening on what they can do with excess inventory or how they can use this uncertain time and all their waste? And what is an action they can do with all of that excess or their waste right now that could help them in terms of circularity, that could help shift their business, that they could do now? What is something like for those that are just starting their journey or who have been on the same journey, doing it the same way for 25 years, but something they could do to change right away? And then also how they can reach you. Who wants to go first?
I can hop in. I would say I'm really excited, especially for smaller brands who are just trying to start this process, because I think, as I mentioned before, there's so many third parties that are doing this work now that it's actually kind of turnkey. So I would say reach out to people like Renewal Workshop. I'll also just offer myself as a sounding board because I'm really passionate about it. If you want to find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk with anybody about kind of what you're thinking about, if it would be helpful, and check out eileenfisherrenew.com when you get a chance.
I'd say, if I could jump in now, I'd say like we really encourage the elimination and reduction of waste. So we try to make it easy, even for small brands. We even have hygiene liners for women's garments that are compostable. And everything that we offer is available in really small units that you could buy online if you don't need a large custom order. And everything from the bags that you use to the labels, the stickers, the closures. If you go online, we're at elevatepackaging.com, and feel free to use a discount. We have the word welcome. We'll get you 10% off your entire purchase. So there's a shameless plug, but if I can provide any advice, it's like just start small. If it fits with your demographics and your client base, and it's not perfect, but you're starting to make those motions and do the right thing, I think your client base appreciates that, and I think it bodes well upon your brand if you're a sustainable brand, and it's a journey. I think that's the real message. It's a journey. So don't try to get overwhelmed with getting everything perfect, but try to make some good starting points.
I'll go next. In everything that we're doing, unfortunately, we can't shred or recycle spandex. So my tip is usually just as a designer or even as a buyer of clothing, where you can avoid spandex, that's great, because those blends with spandex are the hardest to recycle. So avoiding spandex. And then I think in general, if you guys want to get involved with Fabscrap, we welcome volunteers. We are open again with masks and gloves and socially distanced volunteer tables. Our warehouse and shop are open by appointment for shopping. And so if you're looking for saved from landfill materials, we have everything from buttons and ribbons and trims to full leather skins, beautiful yardage that's all been excess and discarded by New York City fashion designers. I will also give a plug with a code on our online store. If you use the code EDU10, as part of our like educating and doing these panels, you'll get 10% off an online order of fabric.
I guess I'll hop in here after Jess. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find us online at McGuffinandco.com and on Instagram. And I guess the suggestion I would have for anybody starting is really start with waste. It's kind of shocking. Like, it doesn't actually have to be some imaginary innovative solution. We are very comfortable with uncomfortable amounts of waste in the world. So if you just start with your waste stream that's around you, you will be surprised to find that there's probably a material feedstock in it, either in materials or finished goods. The client I'm working with now, we're actually looking at a bunch of product that kind of had nowhere to go in COVID, and how we can repurpose it, upcycle it, change it, renew it, and bring it back. And so that's a design challenge, but it's also a thought challenge. So that's how we work with our clients, is sort of like being able to take that first step and not feeling afraid to go on what becomes a lifelong journey.
And just say that I can recycle spandex, Jessica. We do bathing suits and bras. And to contact us was BRArecyclingagency.com, or anyone watching today can text B.R.A. to 79274, and they'll get a free bra recycling label on their mobile phone. But my suggestion, because everyone's suggestions were excellent, I would just add that if you are going to do something, a bring back or take back program is great, because you're getting them to buy something new in that process. And that's what we're talking about today, circularity. And if you're doing that, I would say connect with the youth groups. There are energetic, passionate young people out there, from Climate Reality Project to Extinction Rebellion to 350 group to Earth Guardians. These young people have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers. So if you're doing a take back program and you're investing in a small way, connect with those youth groups, because the tentacles will go out and you'll get all sorts of new customers just by saying that and connecting, because they want people to know about this new Green Deal, so to speak.
Amazing. 5 great ways that people can start right away. And yeah, waste is a design flaw. So if you have that, and as we talk about in our sustainability classes, you know, nature is the source of all goods and the sink of all our waste. So we have to just keep that in mind. Thank you, Cynthia, Jessica, Rich, Tara, Kathleen.
Excellent.
Being with us today. Thank all the attendees. Rebecca, it's been so fun co-moderating with you. We wish everyone a sustainable week, and thank you all.
Thanks,
And here,
everyone.
take it away, Monica.
Thank you so much. I would also like to give a huge, large thank you to our sponsors, Eco Life Yarns, Endor Textiles Limited, and the Accessories Council. If anyone is interested in becoming a sponsor, please reach out to myself. Again, my name is Monica, or Juana, or Gladys. You can find our email and information at fashiondex.com. And while you're at fashiondex.com, click on the store tab, where you'll find the latest and most updated book and online sources. Please sign up and join us next week, week 11. We'll be having a conversation on social compliance and ensuring ethical practices in fashion. Speakers will be Avitas Seferong of RAP, Simone Cipriani of Ethical Fashion Initiative, Fatima Anwar of Ethical and Sustainable Sourcing, and Nancy Miller of LIM College. Co-moderators will be Austin Sierra and Riley Bott, both from LIM College. Also, week 12, we'll have a conversation on transparency, traceability, and accountability technologies. Speakers will be Sushi Ramesh of Suchi Incorporated, Dr. Leonardo Bonanni of SourceMap Incorporated, Ilka Jordan of Jordan Alliance Group, Michelle Alan of M Shop NYC. Moderators would be Madison Ross of West Elm and Rebecca Margolis of Fashion Dex. That's it. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your week.